In the first century, the Roman Empire was an imposing and dominant force across Europe and the ancient Near East. It was ruled by a succession of Caesars who held not only political power, but were considered divine, and therefore commanded and required the worship of their people. The Caesars gradually amassed titles for themselves, names like Prince of Peace, Lord of Lords, and even Son of God. Cities held under Roman occupation declared their loyalty to Rome and its emperor with the declaration, "Caesar is Lord." It was around this time that a man named Paul wrote a letter to a small group of people in Rome. He opened the letter writing these words, "Jesus Christ our Lord, declared to be the Son of God by his resurrection from the dead, and through whose name all the nations are called to obedience." These words would have rung not only with religious meaning, but would have been politically subversive and dangerous. Paul was quite literally telling this group of Jesus followers that you either declare Caesar as Lord or Jesus. You can't give ultimate allegiance and worship to both. This was a risky move, as the Caesars were not known for their gentle benevolence. The brutality of the Caesars and the empire led the Christians to refer to it as the beast. Over time, the Roman authorities began insisting that citizens offer sacrifices to Caesar before they could go into the marketplace to buy or sell. They would then take some of the ash from the altar and mark themselves on their hand or forehead, which was the sign of their allegiance and devotion, upon which they could enter the marketplace to buy and sell. It was, quite literally, the mark of the beast. In the midst of this opposition and persecution, these early followers of Jesus held to a vision of God's kingdom, which would be sown like a mustard seed, but would grow to become a massive tree. It would be like yeast which works its way through the whole batch of dough. They believed that what God had begun in Jesus would be unstoppable. God's purposes would not be crushed under the boot of Rome, and the trajectory of God's kingdom was not descending into disaster and defeat, but towards an increasingly glorious hope and restoration of all things. What if we took all this historical evidence into account when reading the Bible? I think we'd come up with a picture of the end times which was far less fearful than we imagined and way more hopeful than we dared believe. It might just change the way we feel about the end times forever. UNAFRAID, a better book on the end times.